Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us today. I'm Michelle Morris from Consolidated Planning Group. I love hosting these webinars so much because I feel truly like by educating the community, we are creating a stronger community, right? We are building advocates who actually know what they're talking about. And so when you are out there in the community and maybe you're speaking to a friend or a neighbor, you know better what to tell them. You know where to send them for help. And as a matter of fact, that's the phone call that I just received before this webinar started, is that someone who has been watching our webinars told her friend to give me a call, and she was calling to get the link for today's webinar so she could join in on the action. So a few things before we get started. I do want to, again, thank you all for being here. I want to let you know that we're in webinar mode. That means I cannot see you or hear you. But I do want your questions and I do want to help answer as many questions as possible. So if you would just please put any questions or comments in the chat box, I can watch the chat box and present the material at the same time. Other thing I want to let you know is, yes, we do record all of these webinars. We present live and then we put the recording on our YouTube channel so that you can always go back and check it out later on. Or if you miss a webinar, you could refer back to it. Later on today, you're going to receive an email that has a link to that recording. And it also has the slides that I'm presenting. So, a little bit about Consolidated Planning Group before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's webinar. We are located just outside of Houston in the Sugar Land, Texas area, but we serve families all across the United States. With our webinars and with Zoom, and with so many people now not wanting to meet in person because they don't want to share germs, they don't want to have to get a babysitter, they don't want to have to travel. So we are able to help families all across the United States by working virtually. We've been in business for over 30 years. We're fully licensed in securities, investments, life insurance. Basically, what I typically say is anything that any traditional financial advisor could do for you, we do. But we do it through the lens of understanding that your loved one might need your help for the rest of their life, not just the rest of your life. So, what does that look like when it comes to things like state and federal benefits, local resources, housing for your loved one? It's kind of like building up a third bucket of retirement money. You have you and maybe a spouse, you have to save for your retirements, but now you've got this additional bucket that needs to be filled. Often that comes in the form of a special needs trust. We'll get into that later, but we take this very, very seriously, not just because we do it at work, because we serve the community, but also because we are parents, our own children have needs. So this is born from our hearts and our communities, and putting this all together for you so that you don't have to struggle as much as we did when we went through all of this stuff. Now, we are members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. We are chartered special needs consultants, and we are we are nationally certified Social Security advisors. So not only do we live it and breathe it, we are highly educated experts in the field. So people come to us for comprehensive help for their families and to plan for the future. We help people think about things like lifetime care planning, protection for your family in case something goes wrong. We talk a lot about the future cost of care for your loved one and setting aside an appropriate amount of money for them. What ABLE accounts can do for you, what to think about during transitions in their life, how to use waivers, SSI, Medicaid. Later in life, there's childhood disability benefits. And again, we are here to advocate for you and to educate you and to help build a stronger, more educated community. When I say that we're rare, it's because out of 263,000 and more financial advisors across the United States, fewer than 200 financial planning firms focus on special needs the way that we do. That's less than a tenth of a percent of all the financial advisors in the United States who truly understand special needs planning and those nuances of how to set money aside for your loved ones. So, we do offer a completely free initial consultation. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I would love for everybody to sign up for that. But just some easy concepts to think about, some quick advice. First of all, start thinking early. Earlier you start planning for the future, the longer runway you're going to give yourself to make small incremental changes in your plans that can have a big impact. Some things are time sensitive and need to be done right away. Some things can wait. And wouldn't it be nice to know ahead of time when things have to happen? We give you the peace of mind to be able to sleep better at night, knowing that you've got a roadmap. So think about what's going to happen after high school. Right now, your loved one might be going to high school. They're kind of occupied during the day. But what happens when they graduate? Are they going to graduate to the couch to play video games all day or be on their phone or iPad? Are they going to go to a residential program or a day program? Are they going to go to an educational program beyond high school? There's great options out there for our loved ones. There are even work programs where they can be trained for jobs and help get a job. We encourage our families that we work with to start early on touring those opportunities. You want to see if it's going to be a good fit for your family and introduce your loved one to these opportunities, maybe so it doesn't happen quite so quickly for them. You know, we all know that they don't love change. So introducing your loved one to some of these residential communities or summer programs or work programs a little bit at a time might be beneficial. Now they might also have a waiting list. So you're going to have to check out these programs, maybe take a tour, maybe get on a waiting list. In the meantime, start planning for other things for the future. What's going to happen once you are gone? Who will take care of your loved one? Sometimes people say, oh, that's easy. My kiddo Jacob has a sister, Sarah. She'll take care of him in the future. She's neurotypical, whatever that means, and she'll be able to have a job and take care of her little brother. Well, that can create some tension on both sides of that equation. First of all, your daughter might be thinking, of course, I love my family. I want to help my parents. Of course, I'll take care of him when we grow up. But when the time comes, she's going to realize how hard it really is to take the role of caregiver, just like you know how hard it is to be a caregiver. And she might feel like she's bitten off more than she can chew, and it might create more of a feeling of obligation on her part, which can cause a lot of tension. Also, think about it from little brother Jacob's standpoint. Here, he's had his best friend, his sister, his partner in crime all these years. And now all of a sudden, she's going to step into the role of caregiver that might feel like she's trying to parent him. She's trying to be in a role of an authority figure. And he might take on a feeling like, well, of resentment in terms of, you're not my mom. You can't tell me what to do. So there are potential for issues on each side of that equation. So we just say be very careful about that. Now, I mentioned transition planning, and these are some of the transition periods that our young ones have to go through that we can help them with. So first of all, there's that transition of turning 18 years old. You become an adult in the eyes of the law. And there are legal things that need to happen when your child turns 18. Maybe guardianship, maybe supported decision making. Maybe you just need a power of attorney to help protect them. We actually have a webinar all about guardianship tomorrow. So if you think that's in your future, you might want to check out tomorrow's webinar. Another transition period happens when they leave high school. What is after high school? We just spent some time talking about that, so I won't go over it again. But there are a lot of options. And at the end of this webinar, there's a slide where we'll kind of look at some of those options and get you thinking about what's going to happen after high school. Now, leaving high school is big, but leaving your parents' house, that's another huge milestone and transition period. How long is your loved one going to live with you? Is it as long as you can physically take care of them? Is it until you retire so that you can go travel? Maybe you want your loved one to move out earlier so that they can be in their own community, maybe go to work, maybe grow their friendship and learn that way. There's a lot of options for when your child leaves your house. What is that going to look like? Maybe they're going to stay with a relative or something like that for a little while before going to a residential community. Think about those things. And that transition and time period when you pass away, whether your loved one is living with you still or not, that is going to have a big impact on your life. And we at Consolidated Planning Group hope that your death and their leaving your house doesn't necessarily happen at the same time. We would prefer, not that anybody knows when they're going to pass away, but of course, as parents, we would prefer to get our loved ones comfortable and settled someplace else before we pass away so that we know they're going to be taken care of and they know what the situation is instead of everything happening all at once. So, in thinking about where to start with planning for the future, we want you to remember that this road to adulthood, it takes us a long time. It's a journey. It's not just boom, okay, we've transitioned, it's done. This is a roadmap that you have to follow. There are four kind of pillars to consider. First of all, what does your vision of the future look like for yourself and for your loved ones? Think about the dream. What does a good life look like for you and for your loved one? Where would you love for them to live? What kind of social life do you want them to be able to have? What daily supports do they need? Are they going to be employed? Align your financial plan with the actual lifestyle you envision. And that can be difficult because you might have, there used to be I'm showing my age here, lifestyles of the rich and famous. Maybe you have caviar dreams, right? But a Coca-Cola budget. We can help you align that financial plan to those goals. Once you think about what you really want, you can start thinking about the legality of getting these things in place and getting things set up. Develop a letter of intent. A letter of intent, again, this is something that we have an entire webinar about, but it's not difficult. This is thinking about an instruction manual for your loved one. When the kids were young and we would be able to sneak away if we could get a great babysitter, we would leave a little list. Maybe here's our cell phone numbers. Here's the closest neighbor or relative. Here's the ER that we use. Here's their doctor's phone numbers. Bedtime is at 8 p.m. Here's 20 for a pizza. That kind of thing we would leave for the babysitters. The letter of intent is like that, but on steroids. This is where you can list your loved one's medical history, their daily routines, their likes and dislikes, key concerns you have for them. This is going to help when someone steps into the role of their their successive caregiver and wants to take care of them, and the reason that you want to put this all onto paper is because you know more about these kids than anybody else on the planet. So what better way to leave them with a good plan than to put this in writing? You might even think about, writing down who is your support team, the doctors, the advisors, the attorneys. Um, what are their functional abilities? What religious beliefs and family traditions do you want them to be raised with? This is not a legal document. It does not have to be given to a court or even notarized or anything like that. But it does need to be easily accessible if you were to pass away for someone to come along and be able to support your loved one. And it gives them that immediate clarity on how to take care of your child. Build out your professional team. You know, that includes, of course, doctors and specialists and psychiatrists sometimes. Um, Also, it should include a financial planner because paying for your child to be taken care of can be quite expensive. And helping you be able to fill the gap between what the government is going to help you with those benefits and the actual costs of what you want for the future is a financial advisor. Another thing that you need on your team is a special needs focused estate attorney. They can help you with things like guardianship, the special needs trust, your will, things like supported decision making. All of that falls under the attorney. They have to set those things up. For example, the special needs trust, your attorney has to set it up, but then you come to us for guidance on, okay, now how much needs to go into that trust? And how are we going to do that? That's where we come in. And then start gathering up those necessary planning documents. Maybe, working on your letter of intent, working on your financial plan and the legal documents. Gather up a binder. Some people call it a grab and go, family history or something like that. That's a great solution for some people. Maybe just a document that states, hey, here's where things are located. Here are account numbers. Here's the password to get onto my computer to get the letter of intent that I spent time working on, all of that kind of stuff. Think about IEPs, notes from ARD meetings, social security statements, guardianship paperwork, any of that stuff. You can put it all in one easy to reach, easy to find place so that whoever comes up behind you can take care of your loved one effectively and efficiently. I do see we have a couple questions in the chat box, and we do have also some questions that people sent in to us before the webinar started. So I'm going to pull those up too and make sure that I hit all of those questions. I do see Jocelyn wants to know, can our family attorney help with these things? Or does it have to be a special needs attorney? We do recommend that you work with an attorney who is nuanced in these special needs topics because not every attorney understands things like guardianship and a special needs trust. I mean, many family attorneys or elder law attorneys would be able to help you with these things. But for example, one of my best friends used to be a divorce attorney and she had no idea about this stuff. You just need to make sure that they know what they're doing because while you could go to any kind of attorney to get some things done, you might end up spending more money fixing what they did than if you would have just gotten another attorney to begin with. I see something about insurance and Medicaid. We'll get to that in a little bit. Imani says, we already have a financial planner. Could we build a team with our current financial planner and a special needs financial advisor? Of course. So when you work with us at Consolidated Planning Group, and I can't speak for every financial advisor and every special needs planner out there, we are willing to work with your current advisor to make sure everything is in place. Now, We're going to give you our advice and our concerns, and you can take that to your other advisor. You can use us to implement those things, or you can let it go in one ear and out the other. We can't control that part of it. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into that letter of intent. This minimizes the trial and error that your successor caregiver has to go through. Think about how long it took you to learn all of these things about your loved one. You can just put it into a binder and give them that guidance that they need up front. It's kind of the easy button. And wouldn't you want your loved one to have somebody who knows this information about them? Think about their daily routine. What does that look like? What is their trigger? How do they react to loud noises? If they're having a terrible day, how can you help them turn that around? Uh, all of those kinds of things just really helps document those unwritten um, things that only you really know about your loved one, so that the person who comes in to help can be successful. What are some pitfalls and some planning things that people don't really often know about, and things that are very, very important? So just keep your assets separate from your loved one. This is going to really help protect the benefits that they can get from the state and federal government. There are asset limits and income limits. Most of the time, when your child is over age 18, they don't count those assets and income from the parents, just from the child. So if you're mixing your money, we call that co-mingling. If you're mingling your money with your child's money, it's going to be hard to determine and to prove how much in assets your child actually has. Don't automatically transfer any funds to your child. A direct beneficiary designation, if you leave your life insurance, for example, to your special needs child, it's going to cause them to lose benefits. There's no way around that. You have to leave it to a special needs trust. Leave the money to the special needs trust and make sure that the extended family knows about that as well. You don't assume that grandma or grandpa or an aunt or uncle are going to leave money to your loved one. But if they do, they need to do it correctly. They need to make sure that the special needs trust for the benefit of your loved one should be named in their wills, not the loved one themselves. Planning for the money, an ABLE account and the special needs trust. People often ask, which one do I need? You need both. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But one helps for right now, one helps for further away in the future, and both of them are going to help protect those benefits. And then finally, it's really really important, that you understand the rules of these benefits. Know what those limits are, what the criteria are, and how it works so that you don't make any disqualifying mistakes. Now, over your child's life, there are several things that need to happen. This is a timeline of kind of what that looks like. Hopefully, early in your child's life, you will have a diagnosis or realize that you need to talk to the doctor about something going on with your loved one. Every time that you work with your doctor, make sure that everything is documented. Be sure that you talk about the questions and concerns you have at every visit so that it gets well documented throughout your child's entire medical history. That's a tip for you. Now, as soon as you know that there's some kind of diagnosis, or even before you have a true diagnosis, it is okay to put your loved one on the waiting list for the waiver programs. Here in Texas, those waiting lists can be 17 to 20 years long. So putting your child on the list as early as possible is an essential tip. Some states don't have that long wait. Some states, all you need to do is prove residency, and you can go ahead and get those benefits if your child has a disability. So check out what the wait time is in your state, but get your child on that list as soon as possible. And then hopefully the progression goes that SSI comes next. When your child turns 18, they should automatically, well, you have to apply, but they should be able to qualify for SSI benefits based on their own assets, income, and diagnosis. Before age 18, they're going to look at the parents' assets and income. And if you're making more than just a couple $1,000s a month and you have more than just a couple $1,000s, then you are not going to qualify for benefits. But when your child turns 18, they don't look at mom and dad's bank or income anymore. And then further down the line, we hope you as a parent will turn on your Social Security retirement benefits. That's not necessarily when you retire from the workforce. What that is when you start drawing your retirement benefits from Social Security. When that happens, you will get a benefit and your child will get a benefit. So let's talk about those waiver waiting lists. Um, when you have any inkling that there's a difference in your child, you should put them on the wait list. In order to do this, here in Texas, there are 3 numbers you need to call. Everyone here on today's webinar should call 877-438-5658. That is how you get on the waiting list for 3 waivers, MDCP, CLAS, and DBMD. Now, CLAS is very broad. We'll talk about some of these waiver programs in the following slides. But just know, everybody, if you are on this webinar because you have a loved one with a disability, you need to call that phone number and ask to be placed on the waiver programs. Now, there are some waiver programs that are only accessible through your local intellectual and developmental disability authority, or your LIDA, or your local authority. In order to find out who your LIDA is, you can just call 211 and they can let you know. I think they might be able to connect you. Or you can go to this link and find your LIDA, your local authority. But that's going to be something like in Harris County, it's the Harris Center. In Fort Bend, it's Texana. There's the Gulf Coast Center. There's Tri-County Behavioral Health, MHMR, Bluebonnet, ACOM. Those are the names of some of the large LIDAs around the state of Texas. Whatever state you're in, you're going to have waiver programs that you can sign up for. It's pretty easy to Google that information, but if you want help, we can help you. So everybody needs to call the 877 number and call your LIDA and tell them you want to be on all the waiting lists. And for Star Plus, this is if your child is 21 or over, then you should call Star Plus. Now, once you make these phone calls, and you don't have to prove anything when you call to have your child's name put on the list. Just call, they'll gather some information. It seems like they really didn't do anything, but later on, give them some time to get everything in the system. You can go to yourtexasbenefits.com and check where your loved one is on these waiting lists for waivers. And you can see on that website what lists exactly they're on. I see a question in the chat box. Why are these waiting lists so long? Well, it's because here in Texas, there's just so little funding. There's a lot of turnover in health and human services. And there are so many people who need this help. They are only able to serve, I think the last number I saw was 1,700 to about 2,000 children get served each year with these benefits. They get on the waiver programs, but there are like 170,000 people on the wait list. And it's a matter of funding and these programs that are available. What I could say about how do we help, how do we get this moved along, is contact your state and local representatives, vote. contact them and let them know that this is a big issue. And it's kind of crazy that we have to wait almost 20 years for our loved ones here in Texas to get services. All right, so let's go back to SSI for a moment. I want to talk about what is SSI, and then we're going to talk about what is SSDI and how these two programs kind of differ. So SSI stands for Supplemental Security Income. It comes through the Social Security Administration, but it's not actually funded through the taxes that we pay into Social Security. It's funded from general tax revenues. It's a need-based program based on financial need, based on income, assets, and the fact that there's a disability. You don't have to have any prior work history to get SSI benefits. As a matter of fact, if you work too much, you cannot qualify for SSI. They look at how much income you have, how much in assets, and it's a very strict resource limit. You cannot have more than $2,000 in a bank account for an individual and still be able to get SSI. They limit the amount of money they can earn to about $1,690 a month. Now, when it comes to SSI, I see a question in the chat box. How does the ABLE account impact the resource limit? And we're going to get deeper into ABLE accounts. But when we talk about this asset limit, this $2,000 that your child is allowed to have in their bank account, it does not count money that is in an ABLE account or in a special needs trust. Only money that's in that ABLE account, in that bank account. So again, for eligibility for SSI, you have to prove to the Social Security Administration that there is a disability. That's the part where people panic, and I promise you it's okay. There's something called the Social Security Blue Book where you can go and look up what exactly they're looking for. And of course, we can help with guidance on that. $2,000 in assets. They have to be working less than substantial gainful amount. What does that mean? Okay, that means that they cannot earn more than $1,690 a month. That's the number for 2026. Now, if a person is blind, they are able to earn a little bit more. They can earn up to $2,830 and still be able to get SSI. You can also own one house and one car. Now, I don't know how you would pay for a house and a car if you can't have more than $2,000 in the bank, but you could use money from the ABLE account or the special needs trust in some circumstances. So that'll help. You want to wait until the month after. I know here it says the month of the 18th birthday to file for SSI benefits, but we're hearing now from the Social Security Administration that they prefer if your child's birthday is today, what is today? May 6th, just wait until June 1st to file for SSI benefits. Now, when you get online and you start that application, they're going to save the date and they will back pay you to the date your application started, even if it takes a long time for those benefits to be confirmed. The link to start is right here, ssi.gov. And you can go start your SSI application there. They're going to be looking for what are the benefits you're going to get? Let's talk about that first. When you do get your SSI payments coming through, the maximum amount that you can get for an individual is $994 a month. They'll be getting the $994. Now, if it's a married couple, you would think 994 times 2, but it does not work that way. A married couple where they each have a disability, they would only get $1,491. That's something else that you might want to talk to your elected representatives about. SSI does come with Medicaid, so they would get the benefit of having a monetary payment and having Medicaid. Now, there are some things that change how much money you're going to get from SSI. Things like child support. If your child is over age 18 and they're getting child support, that counts as income for the child. Unless you put that money in a first party special needs trust. It's a little confusing, but it does need to be a first party special needs trust because that is the child's money. Your attorney needs to help you with this. You might need one attorney to set up the special needs trust, and then maybe your divorce attorney can help make sure it's written into the divorce decree. If you've already been divorced and now this is coming up, you can go back and amend your divorce decree and get that fixed. But generally, what you need to do is just make sure any child support beyond age 18 goes into a first party special needs trust so that it does not count as income to your child, which would cause them to lose SSI. Now, if you're individual, you're young adult, it's a job. That's great. We want them to get out there in the community and learn from having some employment. They can earn up to $1,690 or more if they're blind and still get those SSI benefits. Now, the benefit will be reduced, but not completely eliminated unless they hit that threshold. And you will still receive Medicaid, even if your child is only getting $1 of SSI, they're still going to get the Medicaid. And finally, if your child is working while they're in school, they're able to earn a little bit more money because they're doing so much. I guess they get a tax break on that. Anyway, it's called the student earned income exclusion. They can exclude more of their income and therefore it won't impact their benefits. You have to ask for that. If your child is regularly attending school and receiving SSI, ask for and working, ask for the student earned income exclusion. The Social Security Department is not going to ask you if you want it or just automatically give it to you. Now, SSDI is a little bit different. This is a program that is funded by those Social Security payroll taxes. Jocelyn, I'm sorry, before we go to SSDI, Jocelyn is asking, how far back will they back pay? They will back pay to the day you started your application for SSI, as long as it's after your child's 18th birthday. So let's say you start that application on June 1st, your child's birthday is today, you start the application first day of the next month. It could take up to a year for them to process all of that application, but they will back pay to the date, June 1st. So, okay, SSDI. SSDI is a benefit that is based on someone having paid into the Social Security taxes, the fund or whatever. So SSDI is for someone who is disabled and has worked more than substantial gainful activity, or you can get SSDI from a parent's work record when the parent turns on their Social Security retirement or becomes disabled and turns on their own SSDI, or if the parent passes away. This is sometimes called DAC, Disabled Adult Children Benefits. Sometimes they call it SSDI or RSDI, that's Retirement Survivor and Disability. And then some people call it a CDB, Childhood Disability Benefit. I don't know why there's so many different names for the same program and why SSI and SSDI are all almost the same exact name for different programs. It's crazy, but here's kind of how it shakes out for disabled adult children and that SSDI childhood disability benefit. So when the parent turns on their retirement or their disability, the child will get 50% basically of the check that the parent gets. So let's say you've been working, you've been paying into Social Security. It's time for you to turn on your retirement benefits. You call up Social Security and they tell you, okay, your Social Security check, your retirement benefit is going to be $4,000 a month. Great. Okay, now you tell them also, my child is disabled. I want to turn on their childhood disability benefit. Well, if you're getting 4,000 a month, you will continue to get your 4,000. Your child will also get $2,000 a month. There's also spousal benefits that we can help you get. Sometimes, because of these additional benefits, it makes sense for you as a parent to turn on your Social Security earlier than you would have thought. We can answer that question for you. Now, when you, as the parent, passes away, your child with a disability is going to get 75%. So now all of a sudden their payment will go from 2,000 a month to 3,000 a month. And they'll get that for the rest of their lives. So because they get it for the rest of their lives, you can see how important it is to maximize those Social Security benefits. Now, in order to be able to get that Social Security disability or CDB benefit based on the parent's record, the child has to be 18 years or older. They have to have a disability that began before age 22. And you do have to be able to document that with doctor's records. That's why I said it's so important. The parent of the person with needs has to have worked and earned enough Social Security to get payments. You cannot be married. Again, oh, it blows my mind that they kind of punish people, disabled people, for getting married, but contact your congressman. And you should not have previously earned enough money to get your own Social Security benefits by performing substantial gainful activity. Now, when you switch from SSI to SSDI, or you meaning an individual with needs, they switch from SSI. They're going to have SSI and Medicaid, and they're trying to go to SSDI. You're going to lose SSI and switch over to SSDI, CDB. You're going to keep Medicaid, but after you're on this new benefit for 2 years, you will also be eligible for Medicare. So you're going to start with SSI and Medicaid. You're going to end with SSDI, Medicare, and Medicaid. Sometimes there are hiccups there, but we can help you through those. Once both parents, this is a great question, Susan. Thank you for asking. And then we're going to get into ABLE accounts. When both parents pass away and the child is receiving 75% of the parent's SSI. Now, just to clarify, you only get one parent's, you only get to draw from one parent, whichever one is the highest. You draw from their record. But at that point, you're not on SSI anymore. Do you still need to follow the $2,000 in the bank rule? Yes, and here's why. That rule also applies to Medicaid and the waiver programs. Waiver programs can help pay for housing, therapies, transportation, dental work, home modifications, all kinds of very important things. So you need to follow the rules for Medicaid, even if you're no longer on SSI, to make sure that you don't lose your waiver program. Okay, so if we can only have $2,000 in the bank, and my child is going to start getting $1,000 a month from SSI, how are we supposed to have less than $2,000 in the bank? Well, one thing you can do is shift some of that money to an ABLE account. Actually, even before you do the ABLE account, one thing that you can do is make your child pay you rent. This is, first of all, because they're paying for some of their own housing with their SSI money, it will bump up the amount that they get to that full $994 a month. If you do not say your child is paying rent, they're only going to get 2/3, about $622 a month, $662, something like that. But if you tell Social Security, yes, my child is paying rent, you take maybe 500, $600 from their bank account each month and put it into your bank account, that's going to keep the amount in their bank account a little lower. And once the money is in your bank account, you can use it for whatever you need. It's your money. You can put it aside in an ABLE account for your loved one for the future or for a rainy day or for a vacation or whatever they might need. You could invest that money under your own name and leave that investment account to the special needs trust so that it's saved for later. Or you can just use it for daily household expenses or anything at all that you need. But the ABLE account is a tax advantaged savings plan. What happens is money goes in, that money goes to purchase mutual funds. And as those funds grow, the income that it creates is not taxed. This money does not count against any of the benefits, state, federal waiver programs. They don't care what you have in the ABLE account. And you can use the money in the ABLE account to pay for anything at all that your child needs. As long as you can say that it helps them achieve a better life, you can use the money from the ABLE account to pay for that thing. The beneficiary is the account owner. Now, there are limits to how much you can put into the ABLE account. The total you can have at any one time in the ABLE account is $100,000 before Medicaid will cut you off. That's not the ABLE account rule, that's a Medicaid rule. $100,000 in your ABLE account. You can roll that money over to eligible family members as long as they also have disabilities. But a state might be able to claim reimbursement if your child receives Medicaid and there's money left over in the ABLE account. So a few things, more details about the ABLE account. Remember, never more than 100,000 total in that account, but they also limit how much you could put in on a yearly basis. This year, that number is $20,000. You can add $20,000 for the year 2026. Also, another thing that they changed this year is the age limit. You can start an ABLE account as long as you have a disability that began before age 46. That's different from the SSDI benefits, but as long as your disability started before age 46. You can put in more money if your child is working, just like that student earned income exclusion. This is kind of like that. You can put in more money if you're working, up to $15,650, but capped at however much your person earns at work. You can run, if you have a 529 college savings plan, maybe you set that up when your child was little and now you're seeing, oh, they might not go to college. You can just roll that money straight over to this plan because this is also a 529, just a different section. And there is a tax credit that they're rolling out. So is this an investment account, not like a checking account? That's right. This is an investment. It might have part cash, part investment, but one of the best features of this is that the investments grow tax-free. So take advantage of that by using the investment portion. Now, people often ask, what's the difference? Do I need both ABLE account and the third-party special needs trust? So I wanted to walk through that a little bit. Again, the ABLE account is limited. Oops, I need to update that for this year. $20,000 can go in the ABLE account for 2026. And it's limited because the government doesn't want you to put $1 million in there and get tax-free income on $1 million, right? So for this year, it's 20,000. Total cannot exceed 100,000 for the ABLE. Now for the special needs trust, it's unlimited. You could put as much money in there as you want, and neither of these things impact the Social Security or Medicaid. The ABLE account, you're typically putting cash in there as you go, but anyone can put cash into the ABLE account for your loved one. It could be a relative, a friend, whoever. The special needs trust, that can also be funded by any asset type. You can leave your assets to the special needs trust when you pass away, like your life insurance, your investments, your bank account, houses, whatever can go into the special needs trust, but it has to come from a third party. Okay. A third party special needs trust needs to be third party money, money that is not already your child's money. The ABLE is controlled by the beneficiary and the parents. You guys decide when you need more money from the ABLE account. And typically, what happens when Consolidated Planning Group opens your ABLE account for you, if you choose to go that route, you just call the office and we transfer the money electronically from the ABLE account to the checking account and you spend it through the checking account. We like it that way because if all your money flows through the checking account, then you can show if you ever get audited, here's where it came in, here's where it was spent, it's all for my child, here's where we paid rent. And you have one very easy transaction history that you can show if you ever get audited. There are also prepaid debit cards that you could use for the ABLE account. We don't, that's up to your family if that would be good for you or if your child would just lose it or abuse it, that's up to you. Now, the special needs trust has a trustee that would be in charge of the money. I see a comment in the chat box, and yes, I do want to point out that there are over 50 different ABLE account programs across the United States. Some do, as I mentioned, have both a cash portion and an investment portion. If it has a cash portion to it, you can treat that portion like a checking account. And sometimes they even have a debit card from the ABLE account. If you don't use that option, you have to remember to think ahead on that money because it will be trade day +2 to get your money. That's fancy financial advisors speak to say that they have to make a trade, they have to sell some mutual funds to get that cash and then transfer it over to be available to you. You can pay for housing from an ABLE account. You can take cash from an ABLE account. You can pay rent, utilities, whatever. With the special needs trust, if your loved one is on SSI, listen carefully. If your loved one is on SSI still, you should not use the special needs trust to pay for housing. It will cause a 1/3 reduction in the SSI payment. So they'll go back to that 600 and something dollars a month instead of the full 994. And that housing, that's why you have to send in a letter stating that your child is paying you rent to get more money from Social Security, from SSI. The ABLE account has that tax advantage to it. The special needs trust, the income and gains there are generally taxable. The ABLE account is subject to payback to Medicaid. Once they pay for so much stuff for your loved one throughout the years, if there's money left over in the ABLE account, they can come back and claim reimbursement for that. If there's money left over in the third party special needs trust, there is no payback for that to Medicaid, and you can leave it to another beneficiary instead of letting Medicaid take any of it. Now, if it's a first party special needs trust, remember we talked about first party special need trust. That's the child's own money. That would be something like child support. That does have a Medicaid payback. So after high school, some options for, I'll get to your question, Susan, in a second. Some options to think about for after high school. Your child does not have any traditional path that they need to follow. Forget it. Does not have to be a 4-year college and then 2 more years for an advanced degree. It might be a community college or a trade school or a certificate program or some kind of thing where you have to get licensed and go to class, but you don't have to go through a big college program. There's transition programs, respite hours maybe would be better for your family. So you keep your loved one at home, but have a caregiver. They can teach independent living skills. They have social and recreational programs at these transition programs. There's residential communities, and they can be full-time or part-time, maybe a group home or a host home or a full-time residential community or even an intermediate care facility if your child needs more caregiving. And there are vocational options. The Texas Workforce Commission is great if you can get in with them. There's registered apprenticeships, certificate programs, even supported employment is an option. So Susan wanted to know, how do you figure out how much rent your child should pay? We recommend very much that you keep it easy. Don't think about the fair share agreement is a little bit of a pain in the butt. It's an option, but then you have to think about how many people live in our house. And if we paid for this box of cereal, is that Jacob's box of cereal or is that the family's box of cereal? How much utilities should we charge to him for his fair share? And, do we just divide everything by the number of people who live in the house? What a pain in the butt. We say just charge one number, like $500 or $600 a month for room and board and call it good. Charge them that and you don't have to itemize things. Now, I want to make sure I get all the questions. You guys know that we do these webinars 2 or 3 times a week. If this is your first one, I am so glad you're here because you are opening up the doors to so much educational information for yourself and your family. You can use this link to pre-register for some of our upcoming webinars as I scroll through looking at the questions. I'll say that if you pre-register for the webinars, you're going to be able to get a link right away so you know how to log in. You'll get reminders and you can even submit questions in advance. We do offer a completely free initial consultation. Please either use the QR code, call or email. You can call or email the office. You can call or email me directly. There's my contact information. And we do this, it's over Zoom. It's completely free, 30 to 45 minutes to answer any questions that you have. We do ask you to fill out an initial questionnaire before we meet, just so we know a little bit about your family. Let me get to the rest of these questions while you guys write down this information. What happens to the ABLE account when the account owner passes away? Great question, Lewis. Medicaid can come back and claim reimbursement for some of that money. Now, if Medicaid has paid $50,000 in healthcare costs over your child's lifetime, they could come back and claim $50,000 if it's in your ABLE account. If there's only $5,000 in the ABLE account, they could take the full $5,000. I've heard that while that's the rule, they often don't, but it's up to you. Some people say, Medicaid has helped us so much. I don't care if they take that money. Some people say, I don't want Medicaid to take my money. I don't want the government to have more. I'm going to spend it all, or I'm not going to use that kind of account. It's just a matter of each family is different. The other question I think I saw, something about taxes. If we claim our child on tax, there it is. If we include our child on our tax forms when she's 18, will she lose benefits because of this? No, she's still a dependent. I don't think she would lose any benefits, but we do have a CPA that you can reach out if you want a more definitive, yes, I know the answer to that. Let's get you the right answer. Okay. Thank you again for still being with us today. Questions that were sent in ahead of time, the best way to be approved and keep SSI, just fill out the applications, be honest, be truthful. They'll help you figure it out, and we're here to help you too. We can't do it for you, but we can answer all your questions. How to designate a representative payee, that's within the Social Security paperwork. It's on the portal, and you can do it there. And the trust, power of attorney, special needs stuff has to go through an attorney. So please, we're going to look at these smiling faces. This is the entire team at Consolidated Planning Group. Andy and I and all of our operations team are going to be calling you to see if you would like to schedule a free consultation. Please don't just hang up. Please don't be rude. A yes or no is all we need. And we would love to just meet with you to see how we can help, what advice we can give you, what questions you have. And then we'll talk to you about how we work and what we do and see if it would be a good fit for us to move together and for you to do planning or anything else with us. So I hope you have a great day. Thank you for staying a little bit after. Go ahead and send me your questions and comments. I look forward to hearing from you. And I hope everybody has a great week. Bye bye. Thanks for joining.